Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are excited as always to be with you this Shabbat. As you can see from the beautiful title card, Persian Shabbat in honor of Purim and the holiday of Nowruz coming up, Persian New Year, very shortly. And we're in the month of Adar. And where does the holiday of Esther take place? But it takes place in Shushan or Susa, or smack in the middle of the then Persian Empire. So here we are with all sorts of wonderful, wonderful things that we're going to share with you this evening, special moments, special learning opportunities, and some very, very wonderful music, which for that, I'm going to turn it over to Cantor Rafi, who will explain a little bit more.
Yes. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. As Rabbi Camera said, we just celebrated the holiday of Purim, and we also have a Persian New Year coming up. It's called Nowruz, coming up this month as well. So in honor of that, and in honor of our Shabbat Around the World series, which, God willing, when we will gather together in person, we will resume with the cuisine as well, the cuisine and culture of each of these cultures of Judaism that we share. But tonight we have very special treats as well. We have members of our community sharing stories, and we have a special guest, also a friend of mine, who's going to be sharing some Persian melodies. So you'll hear in our service Persian melodies of our Hebrew prayers. And you will also hear some Israeli and Sephardic melodies, as well as Ashkenazi melodies, in the spirit of our Around the World series. And also because we want to make sure that we have some melodies that we all know that we can join in together. So we are so excited to share these melodies with you. And we're going to begin with Lechuna Ranana on page 11. And we're going to open with a nigun that leads into this Lechuna Ranana. And this is called Esther's Avas. And we invite you to sing along with us as you pick up the melody. אשר נשבעתי ואפי אם יבואון אל מנוחתי.
Continue with another beautiful melody as we turn to page 13 for Shir Ladonai.
This is a Persian melody from the song Em Shab Shabem Matabe. Tonight is a night of love, and Shabbat is a night of celebration and a night of love. Love for Shabbat, love for God, love for our people. So here is Shir L'Adonai. שירו לאדוני, שירו שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, שירו כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה.
We're going to jump from Kabbalat Shabbat to page 61. And Cantor Jackie is going to share with us why are we jumping from the middle of Kabbalat Shabbat, the Psalms that we normally recite, to page 61 for Ki Eshmera Shabbat.
Yes, so many of you know that I am officially becoming ordained as a rabbi in May. As a cantor in May, God willing, rabbi sometime in the future. And as my thesis, I'm writing about Persian Jewish prayer melodies and comparing them with Ashkenazi and Sephardic prayer melodies. And as part of this project, I had an opportunity to interview a guest who's with us today, Drew Leach, who's going to, in just a few moments, share a Persian melody with us, a beautiful Persian melody of this prayer, Ki Eshmera Shabbat. But before that, I want to just give a little bit of background of Persian Jewish music, Persian Jewish history, which was inspired by a few years ago. My dad and I discovered a cassette tape of my grandfather of blessed memory, his voice singing Hallel on this cassette tape in this Persian melody. And this melody was so beautiful. And I realized, we don't have really a way to preserve these melodies. So I embarked on this project to collect them and notate them so we can pass them on, keep them, and share them, hopefully, from this beautiful tradition. And why? Because this is a tradition not many people know, but the Jews have been living in Persia for almost 3,000 years. There's a very long history. They're one of the oldest diaspora communities in the whole world. And it's a community with a really rich history in Iran. Jewish musicians influenced the music of Persia. Jewish musicians have had, there's someone named Morteza Nedavud. I'll share a melody from him later this evening, a Jewish musician who really impacted culture there as well. And there is a beautiful history of music also, of Jewish music in Iran, which had to be hidden for many, many years. Because during the 3,000 year history in Iran, although there were moments where Jews, like other parts of the world, experienced, they were tolerated and they could get along well, and sometimes they rose to high positions in the court, like we know of, Mordechai and Esther. But there were many moments of oppression, many moments of having to hide who they were and not be able to practice their Judaism openly. And because of that, many scholars have said, the music you'll hear, sometimes it has a sad tone or it's chanted very quickly. And so these melodies are kind of permeated with that history. And now being able to share these melodies openly and freely is really a gift. So we hope that you're able to enjoy some of these melodies this evening. And with that, I turn it over to Drew Leach.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you from beautiful San Pedro, California. This song is a very special song in our family because my last name before I got married was El Yishmereni. So you may have wondered, how does someone come to the last name of El Yishmereni? It is a great story. So a long time ago, my grandfather and his brothers were walking to the registry to fill out their last names. Back in Iran, they used to be known as their professions. So my grandfather was Bashi Lav Duz, which is Bashi the bedmaker. However, the time had come to westernize, to decide on what their last names were going to be, and it was a Friday. So as they were walking to the registry, they were talking to themselves, what am we going to do? What's going to be our last name? And the guy in front of us started singing Ki Eshmara on the way to shul. And they thought, wait, Ki Eshmara. Our last name, or the guy in front of him said, our last will be Shabbat. And then my grandfather and his brother said, El Yishmereni. So that's the story of how we became the El Yishmereni family. Very grateful to now have joined so much of my family here in Los Angeles. I grew up in Arizona, but singing has always been a fun and pastime for me, as well as singing prayer. So I'm going to teach you the song with the melody that my dad learned in Iran and then taught to us in our family. So here we go. I'm going to sing it once through slowly, and then we'll sing it together, and then I'll sing it the way that we sing my family. It goes like this. Ki Eshmara Shabbat El Yishmereni. Let's do that together. Ki Eshmara Shabbat El Yishmereni. The next part goes like this. Od Hile Almeyad Beino Uveini. Do that together. Od Hile Almeyad Beino Uveini. The next part goes like this. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Do that together. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. That's the whole thing. So we're going to sing it together. Hopefully you'll be able to follow my lead. There's going to be some repetition. We're going to have some fun. And welcome to my Shabbat table. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Otleo Meyad, Beino Uveini. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Ki Otileo Meyad, Beino Uveini. Otileo Meyad, Beino Uveini. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. One more time. Otileo Meyad, Beino Uveini. Otileo Meyad, Beino Uveini. Ki Eshmara Shabbat, Ki Eshmara Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Just for everybody's edification, first of all, Drew, thank you. That was beautiful.
So
Second
beautiful.
of all, for those of you who are longtime Shomrei Torah members, even from Beth Kodesh days, Drew was telling us a little bit earlier that she used to come and visit her family and be part of the community of Beth Kodesh many years ago. So it's really nice, full circle, that you are with us this evening. Oh, the Delshed family, sure. We love them and know them they were members of our congregation for a very long time until they eventually moved into the city. So you'll have to come back again and visit us more often.
Really. Thank you, Drew, so much for bringing so much joy and meaning to this service.
We are going to rise as we turn to page 21 for Psalm. Yes, page 20. That's correct. Page 20.
We have a different psalm because it's Persian. It's a Persian psalm.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't figure out why it said Psalm 23, and now I remember. Yes. Please explain, Cantor.
Yes. So it's a very good question. There is a tradition. The Persian tradition is actually to chant Psalm 23, which we know Psalm 23 is a psalm of consolation. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow. But a tradition is to sing this on Friday nights, on a Kabbalat Shabbat. So that's what we're going to do. This is a melody of, and it is a melody of Psalm 23, Mizmor LeDavid. It's a melody by someone named Yonah Dardashti, the Dardashti family, who Rabbi Kamras knows well because Rabbi Kamras worked with Hazan Dardashti in Baltimore, right? So his father, Yonah Dardashti, was a really well-known, beautiful singer in Iran, and he also composed melodies, and so this is one of the melodies that he composed, and it became ubiquitous. So many families in Iran, Jewish families in Iran, came to sing this. And if people remember, a few years ago when we had Persian Shabbat in the sanctuary, we had the Bakhshi family beautifully lead this prayer. So here is Mizmor LeDavid. Is it in our Shabbat Siddur, Rabbi?
It is, I'll tell you where it is. It is wherever Yisker is, because it's at the end of the Yisker service. So page 330, everybody take a look. That's the beginning of Yisker. There it is, page 337.
Thank you, Rabbi. Persian Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binoteh she'yarbitzeini, al mei menuchot yenahaleini, nafshi yeshuvev yancheini, b'magalei tzedek leman shemo. Shemen roshi kosi revaya ach tov chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai veshavti bebeit Adonai leorach yamim.
That was beautiful. I think we need to do that more often. That's such a nice change and such a beautiful melody. Thank you. And now we turn back to Kabbalat Shabbat, that which you are more familiar with, everybody, as we turn to Lecha Dodi on page 23.
This is a Persian melody of Lecha Dodi from this was learned by Isaac Budai, also someone who wanted to join us this evening, but unfortunately couldn't. Someone I interviewed, and he heard this melody. He learned this in the Abri Shami synagogue in Tehran, Iran. And for purposes of illustrating this melody, we will sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו shame לקראת שבת, לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise as we welcome the Shabbat bride. בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
And what beautiful melody, Ken or Jackie, do you have in store for the next psalm on page 27, Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat?
So, and I just want to thank so much Isaac Budai, because he might be watching. I want to thank you so much for teaching me this melody, being so generous with your time and your knowledge. He's also a student of Hazan Dardashi, by the way. So this next melody of Mizmor Shir, this is actually my grandfather's melody. So there's a practice that many cultures have, including almost, I would say, ubiquitously Jewish cultures have. It's called contrafaction, and it's when you take a melody that exists and you apply it to a prayer. So for example, in the Sephardic tradition, we take the melody Los Bilbilikos, the beautiful Ladino melody, and apply it to Vishamru. We apply it to Sur Mishalo. So I'm taking that practice, and I'm taking my grandfather's melody of Psalm 113, which is one of the only melodies I ever heard him sing. So it's embedded in my heart, and I am with his blessed, hopefully, blessing, applying it to our Mizmor Shir. Mizmor Shir, Mizmor Shir leyom HaShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai. ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. איש בר לא ידע, וכסיל לא יביא לזאת. בפרוח רשעים כמו עשב, ויציץ כל פועלי אבן.
שם אדם עדי עד, ואתה מרום לעולם אדוני. כי הנה אויביך אדוני, כי הנה אויביך יאבדו, יתפרדו כל פועלי אבן, ותרם קירם קרני, בלותי בשמן רענן, ותבט עיני וסורי, וקמים עלי מרעים תשמענה אוזני. צדיק התמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולא עוולתה בו.
You made his memory, I am sure, very proud. Isn't it his yortzeit this Shabbat?
It is.
So even more special that you can bring him to life in that beautiful, beautiful melody. Thank you for that. Just really beautiful.
Thank you for letting me share it.
For those of you who are missing a little bit of the Ashkenazic melodies that you're familiar with, from the wonderful Israeli group Nava Tehillah, the name of their community and congregation in Yerushalayim, page 29.
מקולות מים רבים, אדירים משפרי ים. מקולות מים רבים, אדירים משפרי ים. אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני. מקולות מים רבים, אדירים משפרי ים. מקולות מים רבים, אדירים משפרי ים. אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר במרום אדוני.
Those in mourning and those observing yortzeit rise at this time on page 30 for Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash merabah. Be'alma divrach v'yurteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh d'chol beit Yisrael ba'galal v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach le'olam umei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu. La'ela min kol berachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Aseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. You may be seated. So we are going to invite in the second of our guests this evening to our community. Okay, there we go. I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to meet the Benafsheha family. They've been members of our congregation for a number of years. On the screen is Taraneh, along with Ella, her youngest. In the middle of Ella is Eva, who's going to be becoming bat mitzvahed in the next year. And then their older son, Jake, who was bar mitzvahed a couple years ago, who's very, very active in RUSY. Taraneh and her husband, Bobby, are oftentimes found prior to COVID in the kitchen on Shabbat morning with their kids, helping to make a delicious Shabbat lunch for all of us to partake in. And they're very involved in any number of aspects of the synagogue, but most of all, they are such warm, kind individuals, and we are so blessed to have them as members of our community. Taraneh is going to share with us a little bit of her story, and I invite all of you to sit back and enjoy.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. So Cantor Jackie asked me a few weeks back to tell a story about my experience growing up in Iran. I was supposed to tell this story last week for Purim, but I'm glad it was changed to this week because I didn't really have a Purim story. Other than the fact that my childhood, much like Queen Esther's story, was a story of disguising my Jewish identity, I didn't have much to share on Purim. When I lived in Iran, Jews hid their Jewish identity in fear of being ostracized. So we kept to ourselves, and some Jewish families even went as far as giving their kids Muslim names, which was the perfect disguise. I was born in Iran and spent my elementary school years in Iran. I remember spending Shabbat and holidays at my grandparents' house in Iran, in Tehran. They always brought the family together and would sit around and eat together. The grandkids would go in the giant backyard, run around and play hide and seek, and pick grapes from the beautiful grapevines that wound around the building, reaching the second story. Here's a picture of my grandparents. I remember the sound of the backgammon dice against the wooden board, as my grandfather would call for a jofshish, double six. I don't know if it's true. I'm told that he always managed to beat his sons in backgammon, but somehow lost to all his sons-in-law every time. He didn't feel right taking money from his daughter's husbands, which included my father. I remember every year on Persian New Year, the grandkids would line up in that giant backyard for my grandfather to hand them those crisp bills, a tradition that is called AD. That's me on the far right, and those are all my cousins. This is where the older people give money to the younger kids on New Year's Day. Sadly, every year, this line got smaller and smaller as more of us moved out of Iran to seek a better life outside, as things got more difficult for all of us. Growing up, I didn't realize we were different from the majority until second grade. I went to a public school where almost everyone was Muslim. I went to class one day and I realized all the girls were staring at me, whispering and distancing themselves from me. I found out that they had found I was Jewish. I came home asking my parents why I was treated this way and why they would call me a dirty Jew. I was their friend yesterday. My parents immediately made arrangements to change my school. This was all they could do to protect me, remove me from the situation. There was no complaining to school administration, as they would do nothing about it. And although there were many kind people, like my second grade teacher, who demanded that every girl in my class apologize to me for that incident, it was too late and the damage was done. I was sad to leave her class. She thought that I was her best math student. And although she knew I was Jewish before anyone else, she never, ever treated me differently. Her name was Mrs. Sarparast. Ironically, that word in Farsi means guardian. I started attending Ettifaq Elementary School, which is a very well-known all-girl Jewish school in Iran, in Tehran. Here is the photo of the synagogue that Jackie is showing. So Ettifaq had an elementary, middle, and high school, in addition to a beautiful synagogue. Many of us who went to Ettifaq have reconnected here in the US, and there's even an Ettifaq Facebook page. Ettifaq was like a breath of fresh air for me. it was home. We had dedicated lessons for Hebrew and religious studies, and we got Saturdays off, which was the best part. Sometimes our teachers even allowed us to sit in class without head coverings, which was a bonus. The school was still run by Muslims, and they made us line up every morning chanting Death to America and Death to Israel. They would walk by each of us to make sure we chanted those exact words, and only then they would let us go to class. Some of the girls had come up with some interesting variations like Death to Ismail. It was hard to digest this back then, but it's so much harder to digest it now as a parent, how far they went to instill hatred in us. I had some of the best teachers and some of the best friends of my life in Ettifaq. It was more than a school, it was a community. Every Yom Kippur, I looked forward to spending my entire time at Ettifaq Synagogue. All my friends would be there. We would climb up to the second floor of the beautiful synagogue, sit in the seats gazing at the high ceilings and the breathtaking chandeliers while we listened to the chanting of the prayers echoing through the synagogue. Ettifaq was the place where my Jewish identity was discovered and openly celebrated. As the years went by, life got more difficult. The Iran-Iraq war was getting worse. They had built bomb shelters in all the schools. Iraqi planes bombed the city all day, and if we were in school, when the sirens went off, we would be directed to run down to the bomb shelters. Things were also getting more difficult for Jews. A lot of families were trying to leave Iran, but they were making it even more strict for Jews to leave. You could not leave as a family, and there were limitations on what you could take with you. Despite these restrictions, Jews managed to continue to leave. We all knew that when a girl was absent from class for more than a few days, that she would not be coming back. It was during this time when I became very interested in learning the piano. I want to learn the piano, Dad. Can you buy me a piano? I asked my dad. Piano is not a good idea, he would say. You should play the accordion. I admit that it was not until last year that I realized why he insisted that I play the accordion. It was last year at Shomrei Torah when I learned about the violins of hope and watched the story told by Amnon Weinstein. Jews only play instruments they can pick up and go with. It all made sense. And there's a picture of me with my accordion. When I was in the 5th grade, we were ready with all our paperwork for my mom, my sister, and I to leave Iran. The plan was my dad would find a way to join us later. My mom was expecting, so we ended up staying until she delivered. A true blessing in midst of a devastating war. My brother's birth was the simcha we all needed. My parents threw a beautiful bris, inviting all that was left of the family and the Jewish neighbors. This event was the last event I remember with friends and family in our home in Iran. There's my dad holding my brother, and that's me. You can only see my hair in that picture. Taking that red accordion with me was a process in itself. So they didn't allow you to take your own instrument with you. You had to obtain a permit to take your own instrument. So I ended up learning a couple of meaningless tunes to play in front of that officer. So to get that permit to allow me to take my accordion. We spent a year in Vienna, Austria, before coming to the US. Vienna was a beautiful place. There was a good-sized community of Iranian Jews waiting to come to the US. For many Iranian Jews who crossed Vienna, this was the calm after the storm, before the next storm. It was the pause we all needed to rest and reflect and plan our unknown futures. We moved to California in 1990. Things got better, a lot better. I learned English, went to my dream school, and was able to graduate, have a career, and have my own family. We have since reunited with most of our family here. Today, I'm proud to be with you all to share my story. My husband and I feel truly blessed that our 3 kids are part of this loving community. My experience as an Iranian Jew has made me appreciate all that I have today, especially the freedoms we have in this country that many take for granted. I'm so very happy to announce also that today I own a beautiful white piano. My piano sitting right here in my living room, and my daughter Ella is learning to play it. This piano has a special place in my heart. You see, when we first moved to California, we moved into a very tiny 2-bedroom apartment. And when my dad got his first job, his first big purchase was that big piano, that white piano. Today, I not only understand why he insisted that I play the accordion initially, I also realize that you cannot truly appreciate the piano unless you've played the accordion. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom.
Wow, Tarna, that was such a beautiful, beautiful story. It brought tears to my eyes more than once. And Ella, I look forward to the time when you play a duet on that piano or any piano with Cantor Jackie. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Yes.
I actually know how to do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on both of the keys.
And maybe your mom can play accordion while you and Cantor Jackie are playing on the piano, a duet. What do you think?
Yes.
Tarna, thank you so much for sharing such a moving and powerful story with all of us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The reminder of the blessings that we have in this country, and that we should never, ever forget that, and always do everything that we can to hold fast to all of the democratic values that we hold dear. Hi, Eva. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. We are going to continue with our service as we jump to our Mariv service, page 39, and rise for the Baruch Hu. Tarana, you're welcome to stay, or if you want to go into the waiting room, we can put you in the waiting room and then bring you back at the end of services.
Maybe stay until Shema because Ella's leading Shema.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
okay.
thank you. Okay, so we're going to rise for the Baruch Hu.
Okay, so we have been doing a Persian Baruch Hu for a few years now, everybody. So hopefully you'll join us and sing along. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, המבורך.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
I agree with Ella. That should be danced to, that beautiful melody. So thank you, Ella, for reminding us that this song and the music is sung in our entire bodies, not just in our mouths and our lips. We continue the first bracha.
אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המריב ערבים.
Amen. Avat Lamed.
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמך
And Ella leads us on page 41 in the Shema. Make sure you're unmuted, Ella.
Wow, everybody.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 43. We join together with Kenner Jackie on 44, Micha Mocha.
Also another melody that our community has heard before. This is a Persian Sephardic blend of Micha Mocha, and tonight you'll also hear it as you did at our Persian Shabbat 2 years ago with a little bit of Farsi, the Farsi translation of Micha Mocha, which my parents wrote. So thank you to my parents for this.
کیست مثل تو ای خدا در میان آسمان، می کموخ باelim Adonai، می کموخ ندار با قدش نورات هیلot וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. Turn to page 45, Hashivenu.
So this, the melody that I was speaking about earlier, this is by Morteza Ney Davud, a Persian Jewish master musician and composer. And this song, Morgh Sahar, is the dawn bird, beloved by Persians all around the world. And the message of the song is it's a song about freedom. It's a beautiful song about a prayer yearning for freedom. And so I took this melody and it fits beautifully with our Hashkivenu prayer, which is yearning for comfort and safety. And so I'll be singing a few more lines than we usually sing with this melody. So please, as you hear it, the melody does repeat. So I hope you'll join in.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom Vehamidenu Malkeinu Vehamidenu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom Vehamidenu Malkeinu Vehamidenu Lechaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha V'taknenu b'etzah tova milefanecha V'hoshienu למען שמך והגן בעדנו. והסר מעלינו אויב תבל וחרב ורב ויגון והסר שטן מלפנינו ומאחרינו. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Wow, that one I think we should just incorporate into our regular Shabbat services. We rise, page 46, Vishamru.
So here is where we bring in some Sephardic tradition. Los Bilbilikos, a beautiful song about the spring in Ladino, which is often applied to the Vishamru prayer.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבו מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודש הברכו לעילמין כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמת אדם אירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
We rise, if you are able, for the silent Amidah, page 47. It begins and concludes on page 52. As you finish the Amidah, we turn to Kaddish Shalem on page 54.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בלמד דברה קראתי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ומלכון חיי תאכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודש הבריחו לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דם אירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן תתקבץ אלותיכון ובלתיכון דכל ישראל קודם אהון דבשמיא ואמרו אמן יהי שלום רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו וכל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen.
You may be seated. We have our third and final guest this evening to share with us, and Cantor Jackie is going to introduce Revital as I bring her into our Zoom.
Hi, hello. Hi, Revital and Aaron. Nice to see you. We are so happy to have Revital with us, Revital and her family with us this evening. Revital and her family are members of our community. She has 3 wonderful children. Daniela, who was bat mitzvahed a few years ago here. Benji, who will have his bar mitzvah soon. He's in our 7th grade class, and I have the pleasure of having him in 7th grade, and he's such a wonderful student. And Aaron, who's in 5th grade, who I also have the pleasure of having in tefillah. He always truly sings beautifully and learns the tefillot so well. So it's such a pleasure to know your family, Revital, and we're so happy to have you with us this evening, and also your husband Roosevelt. Also, we are so happy to know him. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. My name is Revital, and this is Aaron, as Jackie was saying. I'm born in Israel with my older brother, and then we moved to Iran when I was like maybe 1 year old. That was before the revolution, and my dad was really, at that time before revolution, he really was like in love with the country and everything. So he was rather with his family. So he came back in Iran, and I grew up in a semi-religious family. And what was important for my family was to celebrate all the holidays like a Passover, Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, especially Yom Kippur. We lived like 5 minutes from the synagogue, so we never ride a car to go to the synagogue for Yom Kippur. That was a really no in our family. Although we are not very like a Orthodox family, but most of the Persian Jews, they're kind of they're not ultra Orthodox, but they're considered to be Orthodox. And then for my mom, that she grew up in Israel, though her parents were Persian, what was important for her is that she had to have all her kids' name to be Hebrew. And that's why I chose all my 3 kids Hebrew, because that's kind of like is important for us. And her quote was always that we have to be Jewish in our heart. So no matter if you follow all the holidays or all the rules, but you have to be Jewish in your heart. I went to Jewish elementary school and middle school, and then in high school, I went to a public school, a Muslim school. What helped me a lot when I went to the elementary school and middle school, the Jewish one, it helped me get a good knowledge of Judaism. And interesting enough, I had a lot of Muslims friends. I mean, I know we had like some rough times, but I had a very good relationship with them. So they were very comfortable with us, some of them, and they were coming to our home, and they get to know a little bit with our traditions and everything. So I chose the ones that they're comfortable, and we could like just having a good conversation with them. Our Jewish traditions were influenced a lot by the Persian cultures. For example, the sweets and some of the food that we offer on the funerals are the same that the Persian Muslims and then other people in Iran, they use it. So it's kind of like it's different than the people who lives in US. So we use, for example, we do halwa or some other Persian rice or that the Persian people do. One other things that holidays that we Persian Jews celebrate that is belongs to the Iran is Nowruz. That is the first day, first hour and first minute and first seconds that exactly start the spring. And this year is going to be March, Saturday around 3 a.m. So what is interesting about it, like the Muslim people, they put Quran on the table, they have seen, but we Jewish people, when we do our sofre, we do the Torah or Tanakh on our table. See, we took some of their holidays and we made it our own, basically. And one more thing, like a Passover, it was the one example of my experience of holidays in Iran, Passover, that is totally different what we're doing here. Not that we do different, it's 8 days and everything is the same, but in Iran, we didn't have anything like that, like cookies and like a dairy products that you go to the store and buy everything from Israel and they're kosher for Passover. That wasn't that in Iran. The only thing we had was a matzah that was really hard as brick. It was so hard to eat that. And the rest, we just made the halech, the charas, I think they said in America here. So we made it, and the other things that we ate, we didn't eat any dairy because it wasn't kosher and for Passover, so we didn't eat any dairy. We didn't, it was very limited. It was kind of hard for me as a child because, you are limited in what you eat. And so people was very creative. They're making their own cookies, they're making like some recipes. So for that 8 days, so we could have we had a lot of nuts and those kind of stuff that is very traditional for Persian Jews. Even nowadays in the US, if you go to their house, they always have nuts. And they roast it at home themselves because it has to be kosher. So we don't buy it from outside. We buy it raw, and then we wash it, we salt it, and we roast it ourselves. Because my name was Hebrew, everyone in the class in high school, they knew I was Jewish because of my name. So whoever, like the teachers say, like, who's the minority in this class? Although we had some people that are Armenian maybe, or like there's Zoroastrian or other, like a Baha'i or something, the first thing they pointed was me because my name was Hebrew. I mean, despite all the not happy stories that we had in experience as a minority in Iran, as so far as any Iranian, even Muslim, Christian, whatever is, they have hard times in Iran. But I would never exchange my childhood and my Persian heritage with any other cultures because it's just shaped who I am, and I'm so proud of it. It gives me a sense of family and being for each other, for the family and community, and like try to marry a Jewish person as much as you can, and keeping the holidays and everything. It was I got that because I grew up in Iran, and I had a very good family, and I really appreciate Jackie and Rabbi Camrys to let me say a couple of words. And I hope we keep doing that. That was very nice. Thank you.
Are you kidding? You're thanking us. We want to thank you, Revital, for giving us insights into what it was like, and to be able to hear somebody who relished the opportunities of growing up in Iran, despite the hardships, who had such experiences, that you want to be able to share all of that culture and all of that love with your children and your family and our community. And so the blessing is all ours. And so we thank you for sharing such a beautiful, important, and telling story to us this evening. And we're going to see your children in a few minutes who are going to be participating.
Yeah, Aaron is going to say the Hamatzi and the Kiddush, yes.
Yes, in Kiddush. As soon as we're going to turn to Aleinu on page 56. We're also, I think I forgot to share the screen to let people in. So we will do that as well so that people can come in and join us for the service. I don't have it nearby. I'll look for it while we are davening Aleinu. So we rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Remembering those whose yortzites are this week, the 22nd to the 28th of Adar, Harold Abramson, Louis Adelson, Herbert Askovich, Deputy Beryl, Dorothy Bienenstock, Anna Braun, Herb Bregman, Minnie Birkenheim, Herman Chetlin, Laya Cohen, Jack Cooper, Harry Cooten, George Cowan, David Discount, Leon Edberg, Gertrude Elfand, Harold Falk, Abraham Fine, Beatrice Fishbon, George Freeman, Ernest Gluck, Bernard Goldman, Fred Griffler, Morris Grodzinski, Bialy Gutman, Isaac Hamu, Louis Hannerfeld, Ernie Held, Samuel Hurwitz, Alfred Hyman, Frida Hyman, George Janofsky, Harry Jenner, Yetta Karash, Anna Katz, Cindy Kay, Alfred Klein, Sonia Kirpikoff, Phyllis Lax, Nancy Lewin, Max Lorch, Rudolph Lorch, Sidney Manel, Irving Mirovich, Stan Moss, Marilyn Nachemson, Lawrence Nelson, Gerald Omens, Mask Prosk, Ben Raber, Yehuda Rafi, Sergio Rosaldo, Al Rosenblatt, Freddie Rosenblum, Ruth Rubin, Nathan Shapiro, Bernard Schuster, Irvin Silverman, Mitchell Sternbach, Burton Sweet, Israel Terabilis, Max Talman, Rose Tug, Ben Turner, Jeanette Urkowitz, Hadassah Vardy, Susan Wagner, Joyce Weintraub, Irving Weisbach, Max Yaffe. Those in mourning and observing a yard site, Kaddish Yatom is found on page 58. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach yutei v'amlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam umei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei l'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tishbachata v'nechamata damiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma v'huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the memories of our loved ones continue to inspire us as we say amen. You may be seated. A couple of quick announcements for everybody. Tomorrow morning, just a reminder that we have two services, 10 o'clock in the Weiss Garden, our traditional service. We're going to be live streaming that. I will be with all of you who are coming to the garden or watching us on live stream. At 11 o'clock, Cantor Jackie and David Helfand are going to be leading our once a month Neshama Minyan. So if you are looking for something a little bit different tomorrow morning, you can join them on Zoom at 10 o'clock. And Cantor Jackie, the Zoom link was in the e-news today, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And on our website.
So look in your e-news today for that. Also want to remind everybody that this coming Sunday between 10:30 and 11:30, an opportunity for you to drop off Passover kosher food, used eyeglasses of any kind, and gently used shoes. STS is collecting for Sova and other charities. Sisterhood, shop until you drop. That's right, this coming Sunday from 12 to 2. So after you drop off your charitable gifts at the synagogue, then spend some money and make a difference for our sisterhood and your family, 12 to 2. You can also visit the website and register for the Zoom link. It is not, last announcement on Sunday, March 14th at 7:30 p.m. Share your thoughts and feelings in response to a year of this pandemic through the art of poetry with rabbinic student and poet Julia Knobloch, and learn how to write your own poetry. So stay tuned for that and all sorts of other wonderful things. At this point, we are going to stop sharing the screen. We've admitted all of you who are coming to our service, and we're going to turn to our Kiddush. But before Kiddush, Cantor Jackie and I are going to bless all of our children. So wherever your kids are, if they're nearby, grab them, gather them up, put your hands on their head, or find those pictures of your children, and together let's offer blessings to our kids.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May the Lord bless you and guard you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
May the Lord shine God's countenance upon each of you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. שלום.
May each of our children and grandchildren be filled with deep sense of peace as we say Amen. Kids, grandchildren, give your parents and grandparents a kiss. Tell them how much you love them, how good they are to you, how they spoil you rotten, and how you are so grateful for the gift of love that your parents give you every single day. And now we are going to I'm going to turn it over to Ken or Jackie because you know who's doing what.
Yes, that's right. So we are so happy to have Aaron, Revital's son, is going to lead us in Kiddush. And then we're going to quickly do a hand washing blessing. Rabbi's going to lead. And then Challah, also led by Aaron. So we rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu vana v'shabbat kadosh b'hava וברצון התחילנו זכו למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקרה קודש זכר לי בצייה בצרים כי בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קדושך ואהבך ורצון הנהלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
Amen.
Aaron.
Yeah, trying. L'chaim, guys.
L'chaim. I wish all of our children before bar mitzvah could be able to get through and read the Kiddush like you did, Aaron. Kol hakavod to that. So I'm going to come over here and wash my hands in this little bucket that I have and say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. And Aaron, you're going to lead us in Motzi once again. Make sure you're unmuted.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lehem min haaretz.
Amen. B'tei avon, everybody. B'tei avon. So a big, big thanks to Revital, to Taranet, to Drew for joining us this evening, and a very, very special thanks to our own Cantor Rafi for offering such a beautiful service, for continuing to introduce us to the music and the melody of the cultures that are outside of the ones that we are so familiar with, to remind us of the richness of Jewish life and the richness of the manifold traditions that make up the Jewish people.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So we are going to say goodbye to those on live stream. Glad that you were able to join us, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow morning. And those on the